There we go. Welcome to painting Christmas cards for the 2024 Christmas Bazaar. I have just done a bunch of gift tags and now we're onto cards. Honestly, I enjoy cards more. They're fun. These get cut into little cards that are this big. And I will, as this goes on, at some point I will switch to using the Legion pads because they're pre-cut and I don't have to worry about anything. So, at some point I'll switch to pre-cut cards because then I don't have to cut anything. But for now, we are using full sheets and this shall be great. Let's jump in, and we're not using a tiny detail brush. We're going to paint these properly, which is with a flat brush, which is how I used to paint trees. For whatever reason, this one is covered in a whole bunch of little fuzzies. I didn't think my sweater was shedding, but maybe it is. And we might, once this page is dry, we might make this sparkly tomorrow. I'm not glittering inside, even though I'm just using metallic watercolor. It gets all over my desk. My desk is still stained from the last time I used metallics inside. So I'm gonna wait and do the rest of my metallics for the year outside on nice days. I don't know that I still have the skills to do trees with a flat brush. I might be too out of practice. That's scary. That I'm too out of practice to do trees with a flat brush. I used to do these all the time with a flat brush. If you've got color requests, let me know. I've pulled a whole bunch of colors, and so I am open to working on color suggestions. For now, I'm just grabbing stuff. Hello, people. I'm just grabbing stuff that's already on my palette from earlier, but I do have all of these pulled and ready to go. So if there's a specific color that you want, let me know. Thank you. These get cut down into very little cards that are about this big and then mounted on bigger cards for Christmas cards. And they are my favorite Christmas card design to do because then they also get sparkles on them and are really pretty. And honestly, everyone likes a sparkly Christmas card or a holiday card. So. But I might be too out of practice to do these with a flat brush. So this is just a section of my palette. I actually have been lucky enough for several years to work with small shops that make handmade watercolor paints. And I have hundreds and hundreds of watercolor paints. I probably have, I want to say 200 individual pigment colors, and then many, many mixed colors where different brands will do different pigment combinations, which lets me do fun things like this. So because these are all Christmas cards, they're all going to be vaguely based off the idea of a pine tree. Are they actually pine trees? Not really, but we're going vaguely based off the idea of a pine tree. This is how the tiny ones look that become gift tags. They're quite small. These ones are significantly bigger because they're going on cards. They don't have to be little. So I'm also trying these with a different brush. I used to do these all just with a flat brush, but I haven't been using a flat brush lately. This is the brush I tend to use, which is very, very tiny. But it's losing bristles, and I currently don't have the money to go and repurchase one. So I'm trying to go back to basics of doing these with a flat brush. So well, it's taken a lot of practice, and I have spent a very long time just painting trees every day. They've become my daily challenge for the year painting, is doing miniature trees. So I've painted at this point hundreds and hundreds of tiny, tiny trees. Let's grab that. Hello. There's something so magical about the way pigment spreads when you put it on paper. It's just so much fun. What do I want? Do I want a blue? Do I want a green? I think I want a dark blue. Grab that. I think that's a dark enough. Oh, and it's not wet. So we're gonna wet the page. This line is just about experimenting because I haven't painted with a flat brush in probably 6 months. And I'm sort of out of practice. And I feel that right now. And trying to do these trees with a flat brush, I feel incredibly out of practice. At the same time, I know it's being less hard on the brush that I really like. So it's a good thing, but I'm a bit less in love with them compared to my normal trees. So, this row is very muted, and I'm sort of okay with that. So let's grab something else that's nicely muted. I'm going to grab the brown. Actually, yeah, let's go with this one. Oh, I should have picked up paint with a different brush. The issue with this paint is that it sticks. I don't want it to stick. Well, I want it to stick to the paper, but I don't want it to stick to the brush. Like spider webs. Might fit 2 or 1. Honestly, they're getting progressively better, which tells me that I can still do trees with a flat brush. So let's put rain in. One left. What color? I'm really sticking to this muted. So we're actually going to stick. We've got one more sort of really muted, which is Urban Gray, which we're just going to sort of plop there. Just going to plop it in here. All right. There we go. Row 2. All right. Let's start here. Time for a clean Kleenex. I feel like last year's trees were bigger. I feel like last year we had we had 3 and rarely 4 on a card. I feel like this year's trees are smaller. But I don't know how I've got them as much smaller as they seem to be. So we're just gonna roll with it. Hot pink. Do I want a really dark, moody purple? Sure. Let's go dark, moody purple, because then I can move back into like darker colors. That's, yeah, they're smaller this year because that's how much they get cut down to. So somehow I've done them smaller this year. So this next row down here, I'll make sure to fill the space because I'm definitely not filling the space on this row. I do like that this one has sort of become like using whatever's on the palette. I tend to be pretty bad about that. And in this case, I'm just like mixing things that are on the palette into new colors for trees. Because really trees can be any color. They're just like slightly small this year compared to last year's. But I also didn't keep one of last year's cards as a reference, which seems slightly problematic. Oh, I like that one. That one's really cute. And so I'm going to leave that, even though it's short. It's staying. Are we staying in the mermaid colors this row? Let's grab a dark blue. I'm really only using one dark blue, which is funny. I have many dark blues. Thank you. I think they're lovely too. I quite like them. I've switched from gift tags to card backgrounds because I've realized that cards make me far more money than gift tags do at Christmas bazaars. And so we are now doing, we're doing the images that get mounted onto cards because cards sell for more money. And I think my time is better spent this week doing cards. At this moment, it is pretty much what is on my palette. I've pulled, once I'm done this tree, I'll show you. I've pulled a pretty large color selection of granulating colors, so colors that separate into multiple colors once they get wet from my palette. And I've sort of roughly grouped them on that palette by color. And I'm just sort of grabbing what sort of makes sense. Like, it doesn't make sense to put a lime green next to a hot pink in my head, so I haven't done that. This is the color palette we're working from. So it's fairly massive, but I've also got a secondary palette that is what I am putting paints on and mixing on. And this is what has so all of these are custom mixes from doing this earlier. And now this is just sort of becoming like mixing random things, creating custom colors for trees, because I know that everything I've pulled plays nicely together and mixes well together. Maybe I don't know what colors it'll mix together, but I know their formulas play nicely together and I can mix them without issue. So I'm sort of treating this palette as a like do whatever I want while pulling from my main palette. That being said, color-wise, trees are leaning very mermaidy tonight, I would say. This, other than this top one went very dark, very moody, and I loved it. The second half of this one's the same. This middle section, very mermaid. Down here, very mermaid. Down here, very mermaid. Apparently I'm just like vibing with the light pastel-y blues and pinks tonight, which isn't uncommon. It's just not very Christmas cardy. I, pulled, these are all greens. I pulled a bunch of greens. They're just not the colors I'm reaching for. So instead, we're having pink and purple and bright blue Christmas trees. And you know what? Based on what sold last year, they're what's gonna sell. I think the green and dark ones were the ones that were still sticking around into January. And the other like fun ones were the ones that sold out very quickly. And so I probably should just cut myself some slack and make the fun ones because those are what people tend to buy. So we are going to continue painting these. What do I want? I want this. I don't even know what this is anymore. This sort of, at one point it was a pink. It's now very purple. I think this is probably the last tree I'll get out of it. Honestly though, I don't know what colors are in it. I don't know what it is anymore. It's a thing. Like, it's always just been more important to me that whatever like the colors that I put together that are going to be side by side, because this is going to be cut into small cards. They get cut down to 3.5 by 2.5. whatever's in that sort of section goes. Nothing else in the line has to go, so long as what is directly beside it goes. Really. So as long as the tree directly beside it goes on either side, it tends to work. What are we going to do? We are going to put some Cosmic Sangria in this. And that is the next color we're going to do. But we're also going to mix it with whatever's left in this pile, because I like whatever's going on here, which was a custom mix for stuff earlier. Because of course, even with everything I've got pulled, I'm still custom mixing because it's boring just to use normal stuff. So. That's a wobbly line. And sometimes you make wobbly lines go away like that. That's a wonky tree. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes you get a wonky one that you hope when you cut down the page gets cut in half. And that's one of those ones that I'm hoping that when this page gets cut, it gets cut in half. Because that's wonky. And that one's flared. So you can, on occasion, a page can be too wet. And it looks like this was too wet. And so we've got this bloom. And so we're gonna sort of put on a second layer. Thank you. What's next? So this is now, I believe, an extinct pigment, but it's really pretty. It's a really pretty dark purple. Actually, one of my favorite purples. But I can't remember what the color is, other than the fact that in the Cosmic Creations shop, it's Twilight. But I can't remember what the pigment number is off the top of my head. It is escaping me at the moment. Now we have to have fun because I have this little pile of this color, which I quite like, but I think it's a bit too bright. So we're gonna tone it down with some of that. We're gonna make a nice muted version of whatever it started as. I think it probably started as Rose Mist. There's too much paint on that brush. It's funny how much that paint moves until I want it to move. Then it doesn't move. Thank you. So these get cut apart into sections that go on the front of Christmas cards, which is easier than painting them all individually for cards, though I will, at some point I'll get tired of painting them as full sheets, because it's a very different process to do them as sheets versus individual cards. And so because of Jackson's kindly sending me over some paper, I will be able to, at some point, probably later in the month, switch to doing them as singles. But that'll probably be much later in the month, because this is definitely a much faster process. We've got this very lopsided but skinny pine tree. I don't know that I dislike it though. I think it's got some fun personality. I don't know what its personality is, but I like it. Story of my life. I don't understand it, but I like it. What's our final one gonna be? Oh, it's gonna be that. There was no question. It's gonna be Viola. There's no more fun color than Viola, in my opinion. When it comes to a granulating blue, Courtney has made one of the most fun ones, because this granulates to a dark purple. And sort of the more you harass it and touch it, the more the purple pops. So anywhere you're really heavy-handed. There we go. Shall we do a more traditional row of ones that are actually tree colored? I have more than enough greens pulled. You just work our way through the greens. Sounds actually like fun. So let's do that next. So this will cut down into, I think this makes, I want to say this makes 12 backgrounds, because they get cut down into 3.5s, which you can't quite squeeze out of a 10. I might see if I can do them 3 1/4 and them still look okay, because 3 1/4 would mean that I could squeeze 3 out a row, and that would be nice. Otherwise, I'm just stuck with some on the end that's going to become like gift tags or just like pieces that get included in a second sale at some point. But I'd rather see if I could like squeeze them into cards. All right, let's start with the lightest green. I also don't know that I've actually put these in the right color order from light to dark. We're going to find that out. I sort of want to do one. I sort of want to do like the one on the very end and like work my way in on the other side as well. But then I think I'll be putting my hand in it constantly. So instead, we're just going to work our way across. I sort of love this greens thing. I've never done one just in greens, which is insane. They're trees, but also like the green ones didn't sell all that well last year. And so I've sort of been avoiding doing green ones this year. But there is something fun about the gradient greens. They look. I think if I've got them in the right order, it's going to be even cooler. So we're going to have to see how many I've got in the right spots. I have to put a tray there. All right, where are we? We're number 4. We're here. We're here. Oh, the page is dry. It's not going to spread otherwise. this might be how we do it. Most of it gets done with the flat brush, and then the little detaily bits get done with the tiny round. And just like that, let's go up. Should I continue this and work through like the whole palette in this color? Because I've got a little bit of, I think. I wonder if I'd get through the whole palette. It's an interesting question. Would I get through the whole palette? Like, I'm not going to get through all the greens, I don't think. I like all the greens too, and then I've got like a row of blues and turquoises. I've got purples, I've got pinks, I've got grays and neutrals. I'm almost thinking of like doing, like just working through it that way. That being said, I'm starting to struggle with this flat brush. The fact that I used to just do trees with a flat brush shocks me, because it is so hard compared to the tiny round, but the tiny round is losing bristles, and I currently don't have easy access to be able to go and repurchase a new one yet. So other brushes are going to have to put in some work for the next little bit. That's fair. I love all watercolor too. I've just pulled a selection of what I call fun colors. So all these colors granulate. Because for something like this, I think they just look prettier. Honestly, if I'm doing Christmas cards or Valentine's Day cards, like I want to use, or actually any cards, like I want to use granulating cards. I want to use things with texture. I just think they make it look so much nicer. Especially because like a printed card is almost never going to include the sort of texture that a granulating watercolor gives you. So it's like sort of like an easy way to show like this is a handmade product. On top of the fact that like I never choose the same colors. I've done at this point hundreds of tiny trees, and I don't think I've ever put two of the same side by side. It's just like not how I operate. So, because there are so many color options to choose from. And I'd rather play with all the fun stuff. And you just like don't always have the opportunity to use stuff like this in pieces day to day. The reality is like any of the commission work that I do, I don't really get to reach for granulating colors. They get saved for personal projects or things like this, where I get to choose the palette myself. I find that commissions tend to be a more boring palette. Like I always like the palette for my commissions because I choose them, but they tend to be a more basic palette. It's also fun because I just put these in, I pulled these off from my palette and then I put them in an order, but I didn't keep them in the order that I pulled them out of my palette because the first time I did this tiny trees this year for Christmas cards, I didn't actually have them in any order. I just had them random and I found that too hard. So I then put them in order, but not necessarily the order that I'd normally paint with them in. So it's interesting to see how I've ordered them for this, for it to make sense for my brain, because these aren't the orders my greens are in normally. My greens are normally not. All right. I really like these. There's something about doing work for projects that you really like. Like I don't do that many commissions. I probably do 2 to 3 a year because I genuinely struggle with them. Like they're hard work. But I love doing things like this, like holiday cards, because you get to sit down and you get to think about design and just like figure out everything in your own way. And I love it. I love getting to just sit down and paint and think and work through designs for holiday collections. And so this is like one of 6. It's one of 2 card designs, potentially 3, and then it's one of 6 or 7 gift tag designs that I'm planning on having or have started and have in progress. And it's just like, I love projects like this where I just get to use whatever colors I want and just like have fun with it and sit down and paint. I feel like I don't have enough of those projects on my desk these days. We have one more green tree. We have one more spot left. So my math actually was spot on. or my spacing was spot on. I love that one. Oh, the nice thing is, because I'm going to lose a little bit on the end anyways, like I can be selective about which end tree I keep, or if there's a tree in the middle that I absolutely despise. Row 2 is all turquoises and blues. Might all be turquoises, actually. Let's just make sure that everything's damp so that I don't have to wait on anything to be wet. So that would be really annoying. I love the green ones, honestly. I didn't think I was going to love them as much as I do. So, and I might make these sparkly tomorrow. There is something really nice about the sparkle ones. They just, I thought I had a sparkly one out. I might not anymore. The sparkles just pop. And they're so stunning. But apparently I've put them away. That's annoying. It's just like sparkly snow. But the thing is, to do it, they really need to be able to dry outside. And tomorrow it's supposed to be sunny. So I might do it tomorrow if I decide to sparkle them. This is one of my favorite handmade paints. Mostly because she makes fantastic, you can see like the browns and the grays and that turquoise. Like, Nibs is a miracle worker. So the funny thing about these next two colors is they have They have different names. They came in the same set. They're labeled as different colors. We might only put one in because I don't know that I can justify having them side by side. Because these next two look almost identical. So I'm actually going to skip the next one. Am I? Do I have a test paper? Maybe. Yes, I have a business card that won't scan. Cool. Oh, no, they're different. I can justify having them side by side. They're the same pigment though. They're just the same pigments at different concentrations. Like they're actually the same pigment numbers. When I was recreating this set based off of pigment numbers, I had quite a lot of fun because it's the exact same pigment numbers, the exact same pigment orders. It's just like slightly different concentrations. Which gives you very different colors. Or like different enough that they could justify having both in the same set. Actually, I'm gonna fix the top of that one. There. They're very different colors. I should say. And this is a very, very different color from Roman Small. Uses very different pigments. I'm glad you found my channel as well. There are lots of painting videos up. And fountain pen videos and sit-down videos with other creators. I would say that maybe these ones don't work as well together. They're too similar. No, it's different. The Festival of Teals. Is this one different? this one's blue. Ah. Yes, it is different. I really like this. These color block ones are fun. I don't know why I've done so many of these and never considered doing a color block one, but it has never occurred to me to do a color block one before. And I've done so many of these. Like, it's just silly that it's never occurred to me to do a color block one before. But I love it. It just like makes me happy. Something about it. It's always interesting trying to match the side that my hand shakes to more match the other side. Or make the non-shaky side match the shaky side. We've got 3 left in this row. So this blue is in the wrong spot. I did 4 earlier for gift tags, and I've got, once I finish this row, I've got 2 left on this sheet, and that's probably where I'll call time when I finish those last 2. Because I think I still need to double check links on tomorrow's video. So I will end up it's interesting to see which colors bloom more. So I will do, I don't want to leave this sheet with 2 rows. So I think I'll probably finish out this sheet. Honestly, now that I'm just going in color order, it's going a lot faster. What takes a long time is like picking colors. Doing this color blocking thing works pretty well. And I think I will probably make all these ones sparkly tomorrow. For now, though, this works pretty well. Where are we? Oh, this one was totally in the wrong spot. This one is like a dark version of that. Ooh. Something, I have a feeling, Prussian blue, which is probably in some of these colors, has stained my brush and is sticking. So this is called Gray Rose Mist. In my opinion, it's like very sort of like dark bluey purple, which means that it really should have gone 1 row down. It's another one of those not quite in the right spot colors. But honestly, I don't care. I might play with that one a little bit more. And there's our first really awful too tall tree. And that's how we know what's being cut off. Because that one is too tall and it's sort of just all around awkward. And so it's just not going to exist going forward. When it comes to putting these on cards, it's the one that's going to get cut off. Which is the nice part, is that I have a little bit at the edge that always gets cut off. And so if there's one that I don't like, it's just the one that disappears. All right. Oh, we're on viola. Which in my opinion is the best color for these. Because the more you touch it, the more purple it gets. There was another brand a few years ago that did a watercolor that the more pressure you added to it, the more the color changed. I only ever saw one brand do it, and I can't remember what the brand was. It wasn't Cause who makes viola, but Cause is super fun because the purple comes out more if you add pressure. And so doing something like Tiny Trees, where you're sort of dabbing on the paint, works really well. Right. Misty Morning, Roman Small. Which apparently I can no longer draw straight. So this might actually be our last row. As much as I don't want to leave this thing unfinished, I can no longer paint straight lines. So that makes trees harder. And it's just a sign my hand is tired. So I might call time at the end of this row. swear this is a different color. I swear I picked that up out of a different pan. Oh yeah, there we go. This is one of my favorite paints. Which I don't know if Laura has ever restocked in Cosmic, but I adore it. I adore it so much. You're gonna see it close up. Like, it's so much fun. It's Vertiberry, and I don't think she ever restocked it. And yeah, so it's one of those things that with lots of handmade makers, sometimes they'll only make a color once. And so it's always a gamble if you see something and you don't get it at the time. I am lucky enough to have a pan of it though, and I adore it. These are all now like bluish purples. I don't really have any, I don't think I pulled a single true blue, because the only true blues I have that granulate are Schmincke colors, and I wanted to pull, everything I pulled was non-Schmincke and non-31 purple fish, because I feel like I reach for those colors a lot, and I wanted to use stuff that is pretty but is like underrated in my palette. So maybe it just like gets used but not used in pieces I post. And so I wanted to use things that I love that I just don't use as frequently on camera. And some of them, like Vertiberry and Viola, I believe have both gotten their own videos on my channel. If you look up, I believe they're under One Pan watercolor videos, which I filmed a bunch of and then never edited them, which is sad because they were fun videos. People liked them and I enjoyed them. I just don't know why I never edited them. So maybe that's an upcoming task. It's finally editing those videos. All right. They're getting less nice. So I almost want to call time now before I screw this up. Because at the moment, they're still all right. Like, they're not bad. And so I think this is where I call time, because I've got less control over my hand at this point. And I think this is where we call time for the night. And I come back to it tomorrow. And this is basically what I do for the next sort of 20 days. So I paint trees, and then we put trees on cards. Yeah. I love Christmas card season. I will be doing some other Christmas cards. I've got a couple other designs that I really like, and I will be doing them this year. But trees always sell well. People really like the tree design, and so I am churning out trees as fast as I can this year because people like them. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.